Hello, everybody. I just want to give you guys a walkthrough this week of how I made that virtual escape room. Some of you guys clicked on it and went through it last week. Some of you didn't. No big deal. I did try to type out as much direction as I could last week, but if you're anything like me, sometimes it's easier just to watch somebody else do step-by-step directions. So first of all, I just want to give you a walkthrough of what the virtual escape room looks like. I called it congressional capture. You have to come up with some sort of backstory. I think it'll add a little bit of engagement. This is the first time I ever did it, so hopefully when I do it again, I make it a little bit more creative. But the idea was this is for U.S. government class that members of Congress have been kidnapped and that the students were those members of Congress, and that in order for them to escape, they had to prove knowledge of how the U.S. government worked, because the idea was that the kidnappers thought that members of Congress had no idea how the government worked, and that's why they kidnapped them in the first place. So anyways, the idea is that they're transported into this room. It's like an aerial view of a studio apartment, and that they have to escape from here. So typically, you'd expect the first thing you'd do if you woke up mysteriously in some room after being kidnapped is you'd walk to the exit and try to shake the handle. Well, what you find out very quickly is that you need to type in these exit codes or answer these riddles in order to open the door. All right, so there's 3 clues that they need to get through, and you can see these clues are scattered throughout the room. I just did 3 of them. Next time I think I am going to do a little bit bigger of an escape room with more clues and more tasks for them to do, but just for my test trial, this was how I did it. So basically, then the students will kind of be prompted to then click on the clues. Now, there's a couple things here, a couple different ways you can do this. First of all, you have to think about what you want your clue to be. Your clue could just be the answer to like your last question if you want, or you could do little like extra riddle things that I did to add a little challenge that might not necessarily have anything to do with your content, but they're getting the information they need from that content. So like first of all, clue 1, you click on it. The clue is unjumble all the first letters of the answers to unlock your secret exit code. So when you click on clue 1 here, they have to answer a few different questions, and then after with their answers, the first letter of each one will give them a collection of 4 letters, and they need to figure out what 4-letter word it is, to get them out. So there's a little bit of a guessing game involved. The other thing, so once they figure that out, they come here and they would type that in there. The other thing you can do, like I did this for clue 2, it says for this clue, the answer is a president's last name that begins with the first letter of the last answer. Now, if your Google form looks anything like it did in clue 1, you'll realize students will quickly realize they can just scroll down to the bottom, skip all those other questions, and answer which court handles most criminal cases. All right, and once they answer that, they know they're done. There is a way to avoid that. So if you click on clue 2 and see what it brings you to, they actually have to answer one question at a time and then hit next. So then by the time they get to the last answer, they would have had to answer all the questions, and they can figure out which president's last name begins with the first letter of the last answer. Okay, and that will get them to clue 2. So I just want to give you guys a walkthrough of how this works. I was just in preview mode here so you could see what the edit page looks like on Google Sites, which is what I used. So basically you can do, if you kind of copy a similar format as I did, you could do this very quickly. You could set up the room part in under 10 minutes. So if you look at this header here, this was already set up. I just needed to type in the words and everything else and the backstory, and then everything else was pretty easy. First of all, the background. How did I make it look like a studio apartment? I found an aerial image on Google, and then I came over here. I hit select background, image, upload. That's simple. Then for other things, right? First of all, the exit sign. All I did there was I clicked image, upload an image, found this exit sign on Google, and uploaded it and kind of dragged it over here. Now, the other thing you need to do is add links. Adding a link to an image is pretty easy. All right, if you just click on the image, all right, you can hit this button right here, which says Insert Link. This pops up, and you copy and paste the link to your Google form. Okay, and that will make it so that the students, when they click the exit sign, will bring them, for example, to this exit codes page. Okay, so that's how you do it there. The other things I used were buttons. Okay, buttons, if you just hit insert and scroll down a little bit, you can hit button, okay, and you put the title of the button. So I put clue 1 over here and then pasted the links. Same for clue 2 and clue 3. And once again, you just drag it in there, and then underneath you can type. I just typed right underneath the little clue, and that was really it. It was, I mean, pretty straightforward. I was able to do it pretty quickly. All right, then the other thing I want to go over is kind of the intricacies of Google Forms, because once you set this all up, it's pretty easy. All right, so the exit codes page I'm going to go to later on. I want to start with clue 1 because this is the most basic one. So clue 1, all I did was add a bunch of questions. Okay, so I added, 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. All right, and all I did here is when you hit add question, all right, it gives you some options here. The first thing you want to do is you always want the option to be short answer. You type out the question, okay, what is the capital of Maryland? All right, the next thing is you want the you want to make it so that students have to have the perfect right answer, because if they don't do that, then the whole system doesn't really work too well. So what you want to do is you hit these 3 buttons down here at the bottom. You hit response validation. What that's going to do is force the answer to be perfect. So if you come over here, you don't want it to be a number. In this case, it's Annapolis. But what you could do is switch it to text. Now, if this is math class or maybe physics or something, a number might be right. For my history example, text is what I'm looking for. You type in, that it needs to say Annapolis, and then right here you could type in incorrect. Please check spelling. The reason why I'm writing please check spelling is if they don't spell it right, it will say that it's wrong. So that puts a little bit of pressure on us too. We got to spell everything right. But that's kind of how it's set up. This one is pretty straightforward and easy. But what's good is that then if they type it in, they know it's right. It'll tell them if it's right or wrong. All right, so I'm just going to delete this because it doesn't really fit in with what I had. But yeah, so that's how you'd set up a basic one. Now, this is where they unjumbled the first letter of each answer. So if you're going to do this kind where you just keep adding questions to the same form, remember your clue needs to be something that would still require them to get an answer for each question, right? For the ones like 2, where it said, what president's name begins with the first letter of the last question, I made it so that this way they could only get through one at a time. So if you look over here, here's what it looks like when you're answering. You could see you have to answer one at a time and then hit next. So to do this, all right, you need to do something a little bit differently. All right, everything else is the same with creating a question, except you want to add sections. So for me, I did 1 section per question. To add a section, okay, you just hit these 2 bars down here at the bottom. All right, you might want to title it, question 2 or whatever. All right, and then it's straightforward, right? You just set everything else up the same exact way. But this is just good because it makes it go one at a time. That makes sense. All right, they can only see 1 question at a time. So that's a little bit easier of a way to do it. And if you want students to only be able to see one question at a time based off your clue, that's how you would do it. The last thing I want to show you is exit codes. I did use 2 sections for exit codes. The first section was just like very standard, just like my clue 1, where it was, I gave them, command or question. They put the answer in, command, answer, command, answer. This is all looks the same as before. But the reason why I wanted to add a second section is so this way when they hit next, it just gave them the congrats, you escaped message. So they knew. As far as grading this assignment went, by the way, I basically just had students walk up and show me, that they escaped. And I gave them 5 points if they escaped. If you guys just want to do it for fun, I'm sure that they would be fine with that. But that's just how I did it. So anyways, if you guys have any questions on how to make escape rooms, feel free to reach out to me, Joe Petriolo, in room 207, or anybody else on the Ed Tech committee. I appreciate your guys' attention, and if you guys are doing escape rooms in any other ways, or if you think you make a pretty good one that's better than mine, which is very likely with how basic this is, please, reach out to me. I'd love to highlight you on the faculty notes. So thank you guys for listening again, and have a great rest of your day.